Red smoke filled the sky above Velmora's capital city. The air was thick with fire, dust, and fear. Buildings made of crystal and stone collapsed into glowing rubble. Screams echoed from every street as giant shadows moved through the smoke creatures. Not of this world. The Qatari had come again. This time, they would not leave anything alive. High above the burning city, inside the last standing tower, a group of Velmoran leaders gathered around a glowing orb. It was their only working signal beacon, and it had not been used in over a century. It had always promised never to contact. Earth again. Earth was a last resort. Earth was dangerous.
Ow.
But now, the time for fear was over. Now was the time for survival. Ellerin, the High Speaker of Velmora, placed her hand on the orb. Her blue skin shimmered with sweat and ash. Her voice trembled, but she spoke clearly into the beacon's core. To the humans of Earth, she said, "We call on you in our time of final need. The Qatari swarm is destroying our world. Cannot stop them. We beg for aid. If there is anything left of your warrior tribes, please send them, before it is too late." The orb pulsed once, then again, and then it exploded with light. The signal was away. Outside the tower, the Qatari were already climbing the outer walls, thousands of them. Their long black limbs clinging to the stone like insects. Their eyes glowed red. Their teeth were not for eating. They were for cutting. One of the Velmoran guards turned to Ellerin and said, "We should leave. Now." Ellerin looked back once at the destroyed city she loved. Then she nodded. Far across the galaxy, the signal raced through empty space. It passed frozen moons, dead planets, and lost ships. It flew for light years until it reached a dark object orbiting above Earth. It looked like a satellite, but it was no ordinary machine. This was Earth's last emergency relay, a black box hidden from all eyes. Inside the satellite, systems blinked awake. Alarms sounded in silent code. A message had been received. Priority call. Earth's answer would be Omega. Protocol. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a bunker buried below Antarctica, a red light began to flash. Computers powered on. Doors hissed open. And inside 6 frozen chambers, human shapes began to move. They were not like other humans. Each of them had been changed, drained, broken, and put back together. Soldiers, killers, monsters. Now, they were Earth's final weapon. One by one, they opened their eyes. The first to wake was Reaper. No one knew his real name anymore. He was tall, with dark eyes and metal running through his arms. His first words were not a question. He simply said, "Where are we going?" The second was Vex, a woman with lightning-fast reflexes and a scar that crossed both cheeks. She laughed. As she stretched, "Feels like it's time to break something," she said. Next came Boone, massive and silent. He only nodded. Then there was Crux, the tech specialist with glowing implants across his neck and spine. He whispered signal. Received alien distress. Coordinates locked. The last two were twins Ash and Ember Silent, pale, deadly. No one had ever seen them speak, but they always moved together. Always. A cold voice came from above. A computer system known only as Overwatch began the briefing. "UR unit. Omega," it said. "The last of Earth's combat projects. You've not been deployed in 31 years? This is a Class X alien distress call. Planet Velmora is under total threat from the Qatari swarm." No one in the chamber flinched at the name. They all remembered the Qatari. Earth had fought them, once barely survived. That war had left billions dead. That had turned these 6 into what they were now. The Velmorans request aid. Overwatch continued. Earth's leaders have approved response. Full clearance. Granted. Lethal force authorized. You are not to negotiate. You are not to protect. You are to terminate the threat. Reaper cracked his neck. "Good," he said. Their armor was brought out. Black. Heavy. Nearly unbreakable. Each suit was marked with a white symbol. The skull of a Qatari. One for each time they'd killed one. By the time the dropship launched, the Earth behind them was silent again. The people of Earth would never know what was happening. They were not allowed to know. Omega missions were secrets so dark, even history books left them blank. Back on Velmora, the Kaitari were getting closer to the hidden resistance. Ellerin and the last group of survivors had moved underground, but even the tunnels were no longer safe. Every hour, more Velmorans vanished. The Kaitari didn't kill quickly. They took their time. In the tunnels, a young Velmoran boy asked his father, "Will the humans come?" His father looked at the dirt wall. He had heard stories of Earth. The humans were strong but cruel, brave but dangerous. He remembered what happened the last time Earth sent help. It nearly destroyed 2 planets. "I don't know," he whispered. "But if they do, we may wish they hadn't." Then the sky cracked open. It wasn't thunder. It was entry fire-burning streaks across the upper atmosphere. 6 pods came screaming down like meteors. They hit the ground so hard the earth shook for miles. One landed in the forest outside the city. One smashed into the remains of a Kaitari hive. The others scattered across Velmora's war-torn surface. The Kaitari looked up. They had no eyes, but they sensed heat. And what they felt now, was not prey. It was something colder, deadlier. Inside one of the pods, Reaper stepped out into the ash-covered ground. His boots sank into red dust. Around him, nothing moved. He spoke calmly into his cum. "This is Omega-1. Touchdown confirmed. Engaging." And then he vanished into the shadows. Across the broken planet, 6 nightmares had arrived. They were not here to save Velmora. They were here to end the war. But no one, not even Omega unit, knew what waited deep inside the Kaitari swarm. This was not just a rescue. This was not just war. This was something worse. And Earth had just made its move. The black skies of Velmora were quiet for a moment. Then fire rained down again. Not from the Kaitari. From Earth, the drop pods tore through the clouds like falling stars. Each one burned with heat and speed, shaking the ground when it crashed. The Kaitari looked up from the ruins of the cities. They didn't flinch. They didn't run. They turned. They waited. The Omega unit had landed. In a field of dead trees, one pod hissed open. A wall of cold steam poured out. A Reaper stepped onto the red soil. His armor was scorched from re-entry, but he didn't care. He raised his rifle and scanned the horizon. No movement yet. It's just ash blowing in the wind. "Unit, check in," he said through the convex forest zone. "Minimal resistance so far." Moving west came a sharp voice. "Crux online." Landed near what's left of a cum tower. Plugging in now. "This tech is ancient." "Boon clear," said a deep, gravel-like voice. Then silence. No reply from ash and ember. Reaper frowned. "Twins are dark. They're always dark." Vex replied with a shrug in her voice. "Not this long. We'll find them later. First. Priority gather data, secure forward point, no mercy. No mistakes." Reaper moved toward the nearest ruins. They looked like broken teeth sticking out of the ground. Once this place was a small Velmoran village. Now it was silent, burned, empty, or so it seemed. A sudden movement. Flash. Something leaped out from behind a fallen pillar.
"Oh," Reaper spun.
And raised his gun. But it wasn't Cater. It was a young Velmoran girl. Barefoot. Covered in dirt and blood. Her eyes wide with fear. She froze when she saw him. Reaper stared at her for 3 seconds. Then he lowered his weapon. She took off. Running, he let her go. "Locals still alive," he said into the cum. "That complicates things." "What did you expect?" Vex said. "They begged for help, didn't they?" "Help doesn't always mean rescue," Crux added coldly. Far above, Crux finished slicing through the remains of the alien cum tower. His fingers glided over a glowing screen. "Got their full signal log," he said. "They've been calling for help for months." Nobody answered. Earth only responded after the Kaitari reached their core reactor. "Convenient?" Boone grunted. Crux kept working. "There's more. This world isn't just under attack. The Kaitari are harvesting something." Data shows large numbers of captured Velmorans, not just dead, transported to hive sectors. "For what?" Vex asked. "Unknown. Could be experimentation, or worse." Reaper's voice came over the line. "Send coordinates to the hive locations." We're going in. Full recon. Across Velmora, the Qatari were shifting. They were not machines, but they worked like them fast. Cold, perfect. The arrival of Omega Unit triggered something in them. They began moving toward the drop sites, thousands at a time. Their clawed limbs tore through rock, metal, and flesh. They didn't care what they killed, only that they reached the humans, deep underground. Ellerin felt it too. In the tunnels, survivors could hear the swarm coming closer. The clicking, the scratching, the terrible breathing sounds. Ellerin looked at her injured guards. Their weapons were out of charge. Their numbers had fallen to less than 50. She knew they couldn't survive another attack, so she did what no Velmoran had done in decades. She rose to her feet, turned to the others and said, "I am going to find the humans." Crux was the first to spot movement. Dozens of red signals flared across his scanner. Qatari incoming. A full wave. "Reaper, they're surrounding your position." Reaper didn't answer. He had already heard them. They were close. He could feel it in his bones from the shadows between the ruined buildings. The first Qatari lunged. It was huge, 7 feet tall, with blade-like arms and a body covered in black chitinous armor. Its mouth opened sideways, revealing a second, jaw filled with razor-sharp teeth. Reaper fired. The bullets hit hard. The creature staggered, shrieked, and fell. But 2 more came behind it. Then 5. Then 20. Reaper switched weapons. Engaged, he growled. Explosions rocked the village. Fire and smoke filled the air. Bodies flew. Black blood splashed across broken walls. Elsewhere, Vex ran through a destroyed forest. Kaitar chased her through the trees. She flipped, rolled, and spun, dropping mines behind her. The forest lit. Up with fireballs? Who said this wouldn't be fun? She laughed. Crux set up a perimeter around the Cum Tower, activating drones to fry incoming Qatari with electricity. Boone, with a heavy plasma cannon, simply stood his ground and obliterated anything that moved. Still, no sign of the twins. At the same time, the far side of the battlefield, Ellerin reached one of the crash sites. The pod had split open. Inside, it was only darkness. But there were footprints 2 sets. Both led toward the mountains. She followed. She didn't know why. Something told her that whatever Earth had sent, it was not here to save Velmora. It was here to destroy everything in its way. Reaper's team regrouped by nightfall. Only a few. Qatari had survived the first assault. For now, Crux patched into one of their bodies and began scanning. "Strange," he said. "There's a frequency inside its head, a living signal. Not just instinct, command, orders." "Who's giving them?" Reaper asked. Crux hesitated, not sure. "But the signal is ... old, familiar." Reaper narrowed his eyes. Then the cum sparked. A voice came through the static. A voice none of them expected. It was. She spoke only 2 words. "Don't trust Earth." Then silence. "What the hell does that mean?" Vex snapped. "She finally speaks, and that's what we get." "Check their beacon," Reaper ordered. Crux ran a trace. They're alive, somewhere near Hive Zeta, but their biosigns are unstable. Reaper looked at the others. "Change of plan. Go dark. We go fast. We find ash and ember." "And if Earth doesn't like that?" Vex asked. Reaper checked his weapon. "Then Earth can send someone to stop us." Far away, above the planet, a second Earth ship entered orbit. It did not carry warriors. It carried something else. Something even Omega Unit had never seen before. Earth's interest in Velmora was deeper than just helping a dying world, and Omega was about to find out the truth. The storm came without warning. Winds screamed through the canyons as Reaper led his team across the jagged rocks. Red lightning split the sky. It wasn't natural, it was Qatari storm tech, twisted weather designed to confuse scanners and disable tracking systems. Crux's equipment buzzed with static, signals getting messy. He said, tapping the side of his visor. "We're close to Hive Zeta, but it's hard to pinpoint anything in this electromagnetic soup." Vex moved ahead, eyes sharp, blade in hand. Keep moving. The twins are down there somewhere. Boone said nothing. He just kept walking, plasma cannon resting on his shoulder. Reaper stayed silent too. But inside his mind, a question repeated over and over. Why would Ash say not to trust Earth? Ash never spoke unless she had to. If she broke radio silence, it meant one thing: something was deeply wrong. They reached the edge of a deep chasm. Below them stretched Hive Zeta, an enormous trench lined with sharp black towers that pulsed with red veins of light. It didn't look like a structure. It looked alive. Kaitari moved like ants across the towers, crawling in and out, carrying strange containers filled with something that glowed blue. Reaper raised a hand to stop the team. Crux crouched beside him and adjusted his scope. That glow, it's Velmoran life energy. They're extracting it somehow, feeding it into the hive. Feeding who? Shh, Vex asked. Crux didn't answer. Boone knelt beside a broken ledge and picked something up. A bracelet. Velmoran, burned but still intact. They're not just killing them, Reaper said. They're draining them. And Earth knew? Vex asked. That question hung in the air. Down inside Hive Zeta, everything was darker. The tunnels were too narrow for machines. They dripped with thick slime and moved slightly like the walls were breathing. Somewhere deep within, Ash and Ember walked in silence. They had been captured. That much was true, but they were not prisoners anymore. Ash's eyes glowed faintly as she moved ahead. Something had changed in her. Whatever the Kaitari had done inside the hive hadn't broken them. It had awakened something. Ember placed a hand on the wall. The flesh-like surface reacted, twitching, forming a pattern. A message died. Ash nodded. They're not just monsters. She whispered, they're following orders, but not from the hive. From above. Ember's eyes narrowed. They kept moving deeper toward the source of the signal, outside the hive. Crux finally cracked into a buried Kaitari relay node. He plugged into it directly. Teeth gritted against the pain as the alien energy pulsed through his neural implants. I'm seeing it, he said. There's a hidden command source, buried in orbit, cloaked. It's not Kaitari tech, it's Earth. One of our own black ships. Reaper turned sharply. Earth is controlling the Kaitari. No, Crux said slowly. Worse, they're studying the Kaitari, letting them run wild to collect battle data. Velmora was the test site. Boone's fists clenched. Vex cursed under her breath. Reaper stood up. We're not just cleanup. We're part of the experiment. I think we always were, Crux said. Inside Hive Zeta. Ash and Ember reached the core chamber. A pulsing brain-like structure hung above a massive pit, filled with glowing blue liquid. Floating in the pit, half submerged, were Velmorans. Still alive, their bodies twitching, their minds trapped in a shared nightmare. The Kaitari surrounded the pit but didn't touch the twins. They stood still, waiting. Ash stepped to the edge. Ember stood beside her. I can hear them, Ash whispered. The Velmorans, their thoughts, their pain. A voice echoed in her mind. Not. Something are not. Something else. You are not enemies, it said. You are keys. Ash gasped. The Kaitari all turned to face her at once, not attacking, watching outside. Reaper's team finally reached the base of the hive. They dropped down a tunnel and began making their way in. The walls closed in around them. Organic material dripped from above. Crux's sensors went blind. Something's jamming us. Then we go loud, Vex said. Boone raised his cannon and fired at the wall ahead. It exploded in a rain of black gore. The tunnel opened wider then. They saw them. Ash and Ember stood in the center of the chamber, alive, unharmed, surrounded by the thousands. Reaper raised his weapon. Get away from them. Ash didn't move. Don't shoot. They're not attacking. Vex stepped beside him, confused. What are you doing? Get out of there. Ash looked up at them slowly. This isn't what we thought. Reaper's grip tightened. Then tell me what it is, which pointed to the brain-like core. The Kaitari were designed to kill, but not by themselves. They were programmed by Earth, Crux asked. No, Ash replied. Earth found them, tried to control them. Someone else built them first. Ember finally spoke. They were built to fight us. Reaper lowered his gun. What do you mean, Ash? Step closer. Velmora was just bait, a trap to bring us here. Omega Unit. Earth's most dangerous weapons. You're saying the Kaitari were waiting for? Us, Vex asked. Ash nodded, and Earth knew. Up in orbit, the second Earthship powered up its main array. Inside, scientists and generals watched the feed from Hive Zeta. They saw Omega Unit entering the core. They saw Ash and Ember alive. One officer turned to the others. They made contact. Another spoke softly. It's time. Back on the ground. The brain pulsed harder. The hive trembled. Then everything went still, and in the silence the voice returned. You have come as expected, now. We begin the real war. The hive ceiling opened like a blooming flower, and light poured down from the sky bright, focused. Artificial. It was a beam from Earth's secret ship. Reaper looked up, horror spreading across his face. We've been marked, he said. Crux's scanner screamed. The ship's targeting us, Vex shouted. We need to move. Too late, the first energy blast came down like lightning, vaporizing the outer hive. Ash grabbed Ember's arm. We're not leaving. You'll die, Reaper yelled. Ash turned to him. No, she said. We'll become something else. Then she and Ember leapt into the glowing pit. The Velmoran energy surged. The Katari screamed, and above, Earth's secret ship prepared to fire again this time. To wipe out everyone, Reaper stood frozen, torn between retreat and truth. The rules had changed, and Earth was no longer the good guy. The second blast never hit. Just before the beam struck, a pulse of pure blue energy exploded from the core of Hive Zeta. It tore upward through the ceiling like a cannon, slicing straight into Earth's cloaked ship in orbit. The ship trembled. Inside the control room, red warning lights flashed. Monitors exploded. Officers screamed, We're losing power. Shield failure. Someone hit us from the surface. Before they could fire again, the signal was gone. Cut, wiped clean. Down on Velmora, everything had changed. The hive was no longer groaning in pain. It was alive with light. The red veins that once pulsed with Kaitari energy now burned bright blue. And the Kaitari? They had stopped moving. All of them. They stood frozen in place. Weapons lowered, heads bowed as if waiting for orders. Reaper stared around the chamber, heart pounding. His rifle was still raised, but his fingers were numb. What the hell just happened? Vex said, stepping beside him, eyes darting between the frozen Kaitari and the glowing pit. Crux scanned the air. The hive's energy signature changed. It's no longer broadcasting Kaitari signals. Boone grunted. Then who is? Reaper didn't answer. He already knew Ash and Ember were gonna at least. Their old forms were. The pit where they fell still glowed. But there was no sign of their bodies. Only two shapes of pure blue light hovered there, now human in form. But no longer bound by flesh. Then a voice filled the chamber. It came from everywhere and nowhere. We're here. The lights flickered. All across Velmora, hives shut down. Kaitari fell to their knees, confused, docile. Once blood red began to clear. Wind returned. Sunlight broke through the thick clouds for the first time in years. Velmoran. Survivors peeked from the caves and ruins, afraid to hope. Ellerin stood outside a cracked tunnel, staring at the sky. She didn't understand what had changed, but she felt it. The weight was lifting. The fear was fading, and the humans. They had done it back in Hive Zeta. Reaper approached the pit, heart tight. Ash, he said quietly. One of the glowing shapes floated closer. Its light flickered, then formed to face hers. We're not just Ash and Ember anymore, she said, voice like wind and thunder at once. The hive merged us. It saw our minds, our memories. It chose us to guide them. Guide. Who? Vex asked, confused. The Kayatari Ember said, appearing beside his sister. They were never evil, just programmed, just weapons. Now, they're free. Crux stepped forward, shaken. Then why did Earth want us to destroy them? Ash turned toward him, because Earth didn't want the Kayatari free. They wanted control. They sent us here as bait, to test how much damage we could cause and whether the Kayatari could survive. And now, Reaper asked. Ash's glowing eyes dimmed for a second. Now they know we're more powerful than expected. Which means ... they'll send something worse. In orbit, Earth's ship spun helplessly, its systems burned out from the energy surge. One last encrypted message escaped its dying core, broadcasting across deep space toward the Sol system. Back on Earth, in a dark underground base, high-ranking officials received it. The message was short. Omega has gone rogue. Hive compromised. Phase 2 required. A man in a black suit closed the file and stood. Activate the contingency. Another agent blinked. You mean Project Thanatos? Yes, the man said. Send the reclaimers. Far from Hive Zeta, deep in Velmora's wilderness, another drop pod hit the surface. This one was different. It didn't carry soldiers, it carried assassins. Reclaimers, clad in black armor. Faceless, silent, and loyal, only, to the command back home. They stepped out. Scanning the terrain, primary targets, Reaper, Crux, Vex, Boone, secondary, Hive, entities, and Ember. Authorization, lethal force, no survivors. They moved fast, no sound, no hesitation. Meanwhile, in Hive Zeta, Reaper's team stood in silence. So what now? Boone asked. Ash floated higher. Now we rebuild the Hive. Free the remaining Velmorans. Restore the planet. Reaper looked uneasy. You want us to stay here? You don't have to, Ember said. But Earth won't take this lightly. They'll come. It's not just for us, for all of you. Vex scoffed. Let them come. Crux shook his head. No, we need to plan, strategize. If Earth sees us as a threat, they'll burn this entire world. Just to erase the data. Suddenly Reaper's come buzzed. A high-pitched tone. Encrypted Earth signal. He tapped in. A voice came through cold and robotic. Reaper final warning. Stand down. Surrender all assets. Reaper replied with one word. No. The signal cut off. And that's when the sky darkened again. This time, not from clouds. From fire. Another drop pod streaked across the horizon. Then another 6. No, wait. They weren't coming to negotiate. They were coming to kill. Ash looked toward the sky. They're here. Reaper nodded slowly. Then we fight. Crux, Vex, and Boone fell in behind him. The Kaitarial of them turned toward the new threat. And somewhere in the distance, the Reclaimers began to close in, bringing death. With every silent step, Velmora had survived one invasion. Now, Earth itself had declared war, and the Defenders human, Kaitari, and Hiveborn would face the full weight of their creators. But this time, they would not go down alone. The first Reclaimer struck just before dawn. Silent, precise, deadly, it moved like a ghost. Blending with the rocks and shadows, no footsteps, no sound. Its black armor shimmered with active camouflage, its face hidden behind a mirror-black visor. Velmoran's scout spotted it tanned. Never had time to scream. The Reclaimer's wrist blade slid into the scout's chest with a hiss of steam, piercing straight through. Then it vanished again, melting into the mist. Hive Zeta's alarms didn't go off. Not. Yet Reaper was already awake. He hadn't slept. None of them had. He stood on a ledge above the Hive, watching the sun rise weakly over Velmora's battered horizon. The sky was still red at the edges, but the air felt clean. Clean below, Kaitari workers rebuilt the Hive with their long limbs, repairing the outer walls and opening tunnels to Velmoran shelters. The creatures no longer looked like monsters. They moved with purpose, calm, efficient, alive. Behind him, Crux was working with a console, patching together what little Earth tech still functioned. Still nothing from orbit, Crux said. The spy ship's dead. But something's jamming. Local scans. Vex was pacing near the edge, sharpening her blade on a rock. That means they're here. Close. Boone just sat quietly, weapon across his lap, staring at the sky. They sent reclaimers, he finally muttered. I can feel it. Reaper didn't respond, but he agreed. Deep inside the hive core, Ash and Ember floated in silence above the glowing pit. Their bodies were still energy half human, half hive. They could feel every heartbeat inside Hive Zeta, every tremor of Velmore's shifting earth. And they felt something now. Intrusion pain. Double quotes, Ash, Ember said, her voice echoing like wind through stone. One of them is already here. Ash turned slowly. Reclaimer? Yes, north side. Just one. For now. Ash reached out, her light spreading through the hive like electricity. The Kaitari moved at once, reacting to her silent command. They formed a protective circle around the core, their weapons glowing. Ember touched the wall and sent a signal through the stone. Reaper received it instantly. They're inside, he said aloud. Hive breach, north tunnel. Vex stood up. Blade ready? Let's hunt. The tunnel was dark and narrow, its walls twitching slightly with the hive's living tissue. Reaper led the way, followed by Crux, Boone, and Vex. They moved fast and quiet. Weapons ready, boots splashing through shallow blue fluid that pulsed beneath their feet. Somewhere ahead, something waited. They found the scout's body first stripped. Open, eyes wide, lifeless. A Velmoran child knelt beside it, crying softly. Crux crouched and scanned the area. Thermal ghosting, he said. Cloaking tech. It's reclaimer grade. They're near. Suddenly, the lights in the tunnel flickered. Boone raised his cannon. Something's jamming us. No, Reaper said. It's hunting us. Then the reclaimer struck. It dropped from the ceiling in a blur of black metal and slammed into Vex, knocking her across the tunnel. Sparks flew as her blade scraped its armor. Crux fired.
Ow.
The pulse rifle slammed into its chest, but it didn't. Stop! Boone roared and unleashed a blast from his plasma cannon. The tunnel lit up in blue fire. The reclaimer was thrown back, but it twisted in the air, landing in a crouch. Then it vanished again, invisible. Vex shouted, wiping blood from her lip. Move, move. They scattered, forming a triangle. Reaper stood in the center, calm, rifle raised. Wait for the sound, he whispered. The air shifted. A footstep. Reaper spun and fired. This time, the shot hit. The reclaimer dropped its cloak, staggering. A burn sizzled across its chest plate. Reaper stepped forward, rifle steady. You're not hunting us. We're hunting you. The reclaimer charged, blades out. But this time, they were ready. Crux hit it with a flash grenade. Boone fired again, knocking it off balance. Vex leaped from the wall and drove her blade through its neck. The reclaimer fell hard, twitching. Dead back in the core chamber. Ash felt the threat vanish. One down, she whispered. But Ember's glow dimmed slightly. That was the scout. Ash turned to her. Then where's the real strike? Above the hive, in the sky that had briefly shown light, new shadows appeared. 6 drop dash pods, falling fast. No fire this time, no warnings, just impact. Each pod hit the ground like a meteor. Dirt and rock flew skyward. Kaitari scrambled to respond. Velmoran screamed and ran for shelter from the craters. 6 reclaimers emerged. Larger, faster, smarter. The next wave inside. Hive Zeta. Alarms finally sounded. Red lights flared in the tunnels. Ash and Ember shot upward through the core, emerging above the hive like twin streaks of blue fire. Kaitari soldiers flooded the upper levels, forming ranks. Reaper and the others climbed out of the north tunnel, just in time to see the first reclaimer march through the dust. It didn't speak, it just raised its arm. Sonic pulse slammed outward, blasting Kaitari into walls, breaking stone. Then 5 more shapes joined it. Each reclaimer carried a different weapon plasma net, razor drones, magnetic mines, and one with twin flamethrowers that hissed blue fire. Vex tightened her grip on her blade. Great. We get the upgraded models. Boone grinned. Good Reaper's face was cold. Focused. They want a war, he said. Let's give them one. The battlefield exploded into chaos. Crux fired suppression rounds, trying to pin down the drone wielder. Vex moved like lightning, dodging plasma nets and striking from behind. Boone held the line, cannon overheating, armor burning, but never backing down. Reaper went straight for the lead reclaimer, the one with the pulse. Cannon. They clashed hard. Sparks. Blood. Fire, meanwhile, ash and ember, hovered above the field. Watching the chaos, the Kaitari waited for their order. Ash raised her. Mon pointed. The Kaitari charged. It wasn't a normal battle. It was slaughter. The reclaimers fought like machines. Though were no longer just soldiers. They were evolving. Smarter. Faster. Ash's hive link gave them shared awareness. They fought like one creature with 1,000 limbs. Still, the reclaimers were deadly. One of them caught Boone with a blast to the leg. He went down hard. Blood poured. Out, Vex dragged him to cover, screaming at Crux for help. Crux pulled out a stim injector. Hold still, Boone growled through his teeth. I'm fine. Patch it. You're not fine, your femurs. Patch it. Psh. Crux jammed the stim in. Boone roared, then stood and fired. Reaper's fight with the lead reclaimer dragged. On, blow for blow. Fire against steel. He was faster, but the reclaimer had no limits. No fear. No hesitation, then Reaper slipped. The reclaimer pinned him, blade raised, but before it could strike blue, light slammed into it from above. Ash, she hit it with a burst of hive energy. What? Cracked its armor. Reaper rolled free. Ember appeared behind. The reclaimer, seizing its head, together. The twins overloaded it with raw energy. The reclaimer twitched, then exploded. Ash floated down beside Reaper. You okay? He nodded, thanks. Ember looked toward the horizon. The other reclaimers were falling back, retreating. They knew they were outmatched. But as they vanished into the smoke, Reaper noticed something strange. They didn't look defeated. They looked like they'd completed their mission. Later, as they regrouped, Crux hacked into one of the shattered reclaimer cores. He found a transmission. Log. One last message had been sent before the reclaimers died. Ash read it aloud. Phase 2 complete. Target observed. Hive power confirmed. Preparing for final cleanse, Vex frowned. Cleanse. Reaper's jaw tightened. They're going to wipe Velmora out from orbit. Burn everything. Ash looked up at the sky, then back to the team. Then we stopped them first. The air grew still. No more gunfire, no more screaming. Just smoke curling from the scorched earth outside Hive Zeta. Kaitari corpses lay twisted on the battlefield. Half of them still twitched, damaged but not dead. Velmoran civilians watched. From a distance, silent, terrified. And above them, the dark sky was no longer empty. A shape had appeared. Huge, metallic. It hovered miles above Velmora. It's barely visible, but Ash and Ember could feel it. A warship, a cleansing class vessel. Earth's final answer. Crux stared at the fragmented reclaimer core. The decoded message glowed on the screen. Final cleanse authorized. Orbital destruction protocol imminent. He looked up, pale. They're not sending more soldiers, this. Time Reaper stepped beside him. They're sending a weapon. Planet wipe tech, Crux muttered. EMP floods. Radiation saturation. Kinetic rods from orbit. They'll level the entire surface in minutes. Boone sat on a broken crate nearby, leg bandaged, eyes locked on the distant ship. So this is it then. They're erasing us. Sheathed her blade. Let them try. Ash hovered near the edge of the hive, her glow pulsing with energy. They think we're still alone. Ember joined her, voice calm and sharp. Bet, but we are the hive now. Reaper turned to them both. Can you stop it? Ash hesitated. Not from here. Ember nodded. But if we get aboard? ... maybe. Crux blinked. You want aboard an orbital warship? Not want, Ember said. Need. Reaper nodded. Then we do it. An hour. Later, the plan was set. The Earth warship ESV Halberd was in low orbit, prepping its final sequence. Its surface shimmered with power, covered in massive cannons and gravity coils. It had no weaknesses. It had no crew. It was fully automated. Perfect, Reaper muttered. No humans to reason with. The only way to stop the cleanse was from inside. That meant reaching a Tand, hacking the control core before the weapon fired, which left only one option, a Qatari skypod. Retrofitted with Earth tech and powered by Hive energy built in secret by Ash and Ember inside the deepest level of Hive Zeta. It looked like nothing Earth had ever made spiked, alive, glowing blue and gold. But it was fast, strong, and nearly invisible to scanners. Hold it together for 6 minutes, Crux said, strapping himself into the cockpit. That's all I need to override the firing code. You'll never get that long, Vex muttered. Then, buy me time. Reaper stood by the launch rail, hand on the hull. He looked at Ash. This ship of yours, ... it's stable? Mostly, she said. But once you're up there, we can't help you. Reaper looked at Crux, Vex, and Boone. We'll help each other. The launch shook the Hive. The skypod ripped through the atmosphere, trailing blue light behind it. Clouds split. Fire licked the edges. Inside, the 4 defenders braced themselves as gravity crushed them against their seats. Reaper gritted his teeth. Still stable? Crux muttered something about G-forces and screamed metal but gave a thumbs dash up. Outside. ESV Halberd grew larger. Its defense systems were already locking on. Back on Velmora, Ash and Ember floated to the top of the Hive spire. Their energy rippled outward. They sent a signal, loud, sharp, powerful. Every Qatari Hive on the planet heard it. A call to rise, to fight, to survive. From every crater and ruin, the Qatari swarmed out in waves, not in rage, in unity. They formed massive shapes on the surface Hive symbols. Glowing with energy meant for Earth to see, Ash's voice echoed across the sky. You built this world to die, but we will not die for you. Above, alarms screamed inside the skypod. Incoming. Missiles! Crux shouted. Evasive now. Boone grabbed the controls and banked hard. The ship spiraled, dodging the first 2, but the third clipped a wing. The entire pod spun out of control. Metal groaning. Vex reached for the emergency stabilizer. Reaper held on tight, eyes locked on the warship growing closer with every second. We only get one shot. The ESV Halberd opened a launch bay like a yawning metal mouth. They aimed straight for it. The pod slammed inside, skidding across steel, sparks flying. They hit the wall hard and stopped. Silence. Then Reaper stood. Rifle ready. Move. The inside of the ship was dark and cold. Silent corridors stretched out like veins. Red lights pulsed on the walls. Drones skittered overhead. Crux pulled up his scanner. Command core's deep in the center, 2 levels down, behind a vault. Love. Course it is, Vex muttered. Boone cracked his knuckles. We cut through. No, Reaper said. We sneak. Fast and quiet. They moved. Every step was a risk. Automated turrets scanned the halls. Drones hovered above, searching for movement. But the defenders were ghosts, moving only when the light shifted. Holding breath when systems flared at one junction, turret spotted them. It spun. Boone dove in front. Absorbing the blast with his armor, the others returned fire, blowing it apart. Alarms screamed. No more sneaking, Crux said. Run. They reached the command core as the ship's defense AI activated. Unauthorized presence detected. Mechanical voice droned. Orbital cleanse locked. Initiating purge. A countdown appeared on the wall. 3:00 Reaper and Vex slammed into the vault door. Crux hacked the terminal. Boone planted explosives as backup. 2 minutes, Crux hissed. Hold them off. Drones poured into the hallway. Dozens, then hundreds. Reaper fired nonstop. Bullets slicing metal. Vex danced between enemies. Blade. Flashing, Boone's cannon roared. 2 o'clock. Crux cursed under his breath. Almost there, a drone broke through and hit Vex hard. She went down. Boone grabbed her. shielding with his own body. Reaper kept firing, but more were coming. 1 o'clock, Crux shouted. "Done! Doors open!" He rushed inside. The core pulsed with red light. It's a massive sphere. Rotating in liquid metal, Crux ran to the console and began typing like his life depended on it. It did. Shutting down orbital weapon. ... Injecting. Hive override. Reaper and Boone blocked the doorway, holding the drones off. Then Crux screamed. Reprogramming started. "Don't let anything stop me." 0. 4-5 Ash and Ember felt the countdown from the surface. They gathered all Hive energy into one final burst. A signal stronger than anything before. They pushed it upward. Into the ship. Through Crux. Into the core. 0-15. The sphere trembled. Crux's eyes glowed blue. He wasn't typing anymore. He was channeling. Vex crawled to his side. Blood on her face. "Crux, are you okay?" "No," he whispered. "But I can see it. The whole system. I am the system now." Reaper looked at the countdown. 00:400:300:02. Crux smiled faintly. "Shut it down." The ship went dark. Every drone collapsed. The core turned blue. Outside, the orbital weapon powered down. On Velmora. The sky turned peaceful again. Ash opened her eyes and whispered, "They did it." Back aboard the ship, silence filled the command core. Crux fell to his knees, exhausted but alive. Boone helped him up. Reaper looked out of VIEWPORT. Earth had failed, and Velmora would live, but they all knew this wasn't the end. Earth would send more, something worse. But now, they had something to hope, and a reason to fight. The warship floated silently in orbit. No lights, no weapons, no drones. Just a massive shell quiet. Empty and deactivated. But inside, things were not calm. Reaper sat on the floor of the command chamber, head leaning against the wall, his rifle rested across his legs. His armor was scorched, his face hollow. They had stopped the cleanse. But at a cost, Crux lay unconscious beside a melted console. Skin glowed faintly blue, pulsing in rhythm with the Hive's energy. Whatever had happened between him and the core, it had changed him. Vex crouched beside Crux, wiping blood from his face. His body stable, but his mind somewhere else. Boone stood near the control window, staring at Velmora below. "We should burn this ship," he said flatly. "Make sure Earth can't reactivate it." Reaper didn't answer. He was thinking about what came next. Because the fight wasn't over. Back on the surface, Hive Zeta roared with movement. Kaitari workers poured in and out of tunnels, reinforcing walls, preparing for something bigger. Ash stood at the center of the Hive, surrounded by thousands. Her body shimmered with growing power. Beside her, Ember closed her eyes, feeling distant vibrations in the atmosphere. They knew Earth would send more. The failed cleanse wouldn't be the end. It would be the beginning. Ash reached into the Hive's deep channels, sending a pulse through the planet's crust. "We must prepare," she said aloud. "Not just to defend, but to end this war." Aboard the warship, Reaper finally stood. "Boone," he said, "help me set charges. We'll strip the core and leave this ship in orbit dead." Boone nodded. "What about Crux? We carry him." Vex sighed. "He'll hate that." Reaper gave her a faint smile. "Good, means he'll wake up to complain." Together, they planted detonation points across key systems, engines, nav control, defense banks. But they left the ships whole intact. The idea wasn't to destroy it completely, just make it unusable. They took Crux's body, returned to the launch pod. The ship exploded behind them, silent fire in the void. They re-entered Velmora's atmosphere like a meteor. Hive Zeta opened its shell to receive them. The pod landed hard but held together. Kaitari swarmed forward to help. Ember appeared first, floating down into the crater. "You returned?" Reaper stepped out, carrying Crux. "He's still with us." Ash stepped forward. She touched Crux's chest gently. "He's different." The system left something inside him. Boone watched nervously. "Good? Different or bad?" "I don't know yet," Ash whispered. They moved Crux into a healing chamber built deep within Hive Zeta. It wasn't. Earth's tech, it was living tissue powered by energy and memory. It wrapped around his body like a cocoon. He needs time. Ash said, "Let him rest." Reaper turned to her. "What about the ship?" Ash nodded. "We've sent signals. It's dark. Earth will think it was destroyed." Boone wasn't convinced. "They'll come anyway. Earth doesn't stop." "Send something bigger, smarter." "They already are," Ember said. Everyone turned toward her. "What do you mean?" Reaper asked. "I felt a signal while you were aboard the warship. It didn't come from Earth. It came from the edge of the system. A command relay."
Our Reapers.
Eyes narrowed. "Not a ship?" "No," Ember replied. "A gate. A long-range portal." Ash stepped forward. "Earth didn't just send one weapon. They opened a path for more." Boone grunted. "So we're about to be invaded." Vex cracked. Her knuckles good. "Let them come." The next day, Reaper stood on a cliff overlooking a Qatari training field. Hundreds of warriors trained with new weapons, high-forged blades, plasma staffs. Armor grown from the walls themselves. They weren't just bugs anymore. They were soldiers. Vex joined him, watching. "You think they're ready?" "No," Reaper said, "but they're willing." Behind them, Ember and Ash entered quietly. "We have a plan," Ember said. Reaper turned. "Let's hear it." "There's a relay station orbiting near Velmora's moon," Ash explained. "It's how Earth opened the portal. It's still active. If we destroy it, we can shut the gate, trap whatever's coming." "But it won't be easy," Ember added. "The station has Earth's top AI defenses, not drones, not reclaimers. A sentient machine." Vex raised a brow. "One of the big ones?" Ash nodded. "One of the original decision cores. Made for planetary management, cold, logical, and very hard to kill." Boone grunted. "We'll manage." Reaper looked at the others. "We take the fight to them. No more waiting." He turned to Ash and Ember. "Can you build us another pod?" Smiled faintly. "No." Reaper frowned. "We'll build you something better," she said. 3 days later. The craft was ready. It looked like a starfish made of armor and flame. Built from Qatari metal, Earth tech, and Hive energy. It pulsed. With a low hum, almost like it breathed, Reaper ran his hand along the edge. "What do you call it?" Ash looked up. "We call it Unity." The name stuck. That night, Crux woke up. He didn't speak right. Awaja stared at the ceiling of the chamber, light flickering across his eyes. Then he whispered, "I saw it." Reaper was at his side in seconds. "Saw what?" Crux turned. His head slowly. "The gate. The machine. It's already begun to scan Velmora." "It knows, Ash. Ember. It knows us. It's trying to create something to match us." Vex leaned in, like a reclaimer. "No," Crux said. "Like a hive, a human version. Built to conquer, not connect." Boone's face hardened. "So there. Copying what Ash and Ember became." Crux nodded weakly. "But they got it wrong." Reaper's voice was low. "Then we show them what right looks like." The team stood outside the hangar as Unity powered up. The ground shook with energy. Air hummed with electricity. The Qatari gathered in silence, watching their defenders walk into the craft one by one. Ash stepped forward. "If you don't return, we will," Reaper said. Ember tilted her head. "You're sure?" Reaper gave a rare, small smile. "I'm tired of losing." Ash placed her hand on the hole. "Then go. End this." As Unity rose into the sky, Ember reached out with her mind. She felt it again, the gate open alive. Faster than any Earth ship, stronger than any Qatari vessel, built for one purpose, to end the war before it could begin. Inside the cockpit, Reaper sat, strapped in, helmet on, eyes steady. Beside him, Crux ran diagnostics. His fingers moved, faster than they ever had. Hive energy flickered around his eyes, brighter now, more controlled. Boone stood behind them, armored and calm. He checked his cannon again and again, like a ritual. Vex leaned against the wall, spinning one of her blades between her fingers. "So," she said quietly, "one more ride." Crux gave a thin smile. "The last one, maybe." "Maybe, Reaper said. "If we do it right." Ahead, the relay gate came into view. It wasn't just a structure, it was a machine the size of a moon spinning. Alive, glowing with Earth's energy signature. Long metal arms stretched into the void. Between them, a tear in space pulsed like a beating heart. The gate waited Earth's next wave. They saw the shadow of a ship forming inside it. Bigger than anything they had faced before. Not a reclaimer, not a drone. This was something new. Crux spoke quietly. "The AI inside. It's not just defense. It's a creation core." Vex raised an eyebrow, meaning, "It's building Earth's version of a hive." "In real time," Boone grunted. "Then we're already late." Back on Valmora, Ash and Ember watched from the cliffs of Hive Zeta. Ash's voice was steady. "If they fail, the gate opens wide." Ember didn't look away. "They won't fail." "How can you be sure?" Ember closed her eyes. "Because for the first time, Earth is afraid." Inside the Unity, alarms triggered. The AI at the center of the gate had detected them. Reaper gripped the controls. "Crux, what are we up against?" "Massive. Drone wall. Auto defense grid. And the core. It's shielded by layers of recursive code. It's rewriting itself every second." In English, Boone growled. Crux sighed. "We get one shot. We get in, hijack into the core, and we shut the entire thing down from the inside. After that, ... the gate collapses." "And if you fail?" Vex asked. "I don't," Crux replied. The Unity plunged toward the gate. A storm of black drones met them, thousands of them, sharp and fast. But the Unity was faster. Hive energy flared along its wings. Ash and Ember had built it for this moment. Reaper twisted the controls, dodging missiles. Slicing through drones with bursts of plasma and cutting arcs of light, Boone took the side. Cannon fired into the swarm, clearing paths. Vex activated the ship's energy blades, massive arcs of spinning steel, and sliced two incoming drones in half. Crux locked eyes on the glowing core of the gate. "Get me there," he yelled. They punched through, straight into the heart of the machine. Inside the relay gate was a chamber larger than a city, glowing with shifting code and strange shapes. It wasn't just mechanical, it was organic in places. Earth had begun copying hive structures, trying to merge logic with instinct. But it was wrong. It was cold, empty, lifeless. No. Unity, only control. The Unity crash landed deep in the gate's control chamber. The defenders leaped out. Crux ran for. The access pillar, Reaper, Boone, and Vex formed a perimeter as defense drones dropped from the ceiling. "Hold them," Crux shouted. "Just a few minutes." Boone fired non-stop. "You've heard that before." Crux slammed his hand into the pillar. The code flooded into his mind instantly. It felt like ice, sharp, painful, rigid. It tried to push him out. But Crux wasn't the same as before. He wasn't just human anymore. Hive energy surged from his chest, burning through the AI's defenses. For every firewall the core threw at him, he answered with living code. Ash's voice echoed in his memory. "A system made of fear can never stand against one made of trust." Outside, Vex was cut across the shoulder. She kept moving. Boone ran. Dry on ammo. He picked up a drone and smashed another with it. Reaper was bleeding but steady, shooting anything that moved. Shielding Crux's back. "We've got maybe 1 minute." Reaper shouted. Crux didn't respond. His eyes had gone white. Inside his mind, Crux stood in front of the AI. It took the form of a mirror, a cold, clean version of himself. "You are weak," the AI said. "You trust too much. You let chaos." Crux smiled. "That's the point." He reached out and shattered the mirror. The AI screamed. Reality cracked. The gate began to collapse in the real world. Alarms screamed. The drones fell from the ceiling. Motionless. The chamber lights flickered. Crux dropped to one knee, breathing hard. "It's done." Reaper grabbed him, and let's go. The defenders ran back to the Unity. The gate was breaking apart behind them. Energy surged in wild random pulses. The portal began to fold inward, crushing everything inside. Boone hit the thrusters. They launched as the ship climbed out. The entire relay gate imploded, light and fire exploding into space like a dying star. And just like that, the path to Earth was gone. Closed, silence, then static, then a voice. Ash to Unity. "Are you there?" Reaper clicked on. "We're here." "It's done." Ember's voice broke through. "We felt it." "The signal's gone. The sky is quiet." Reaper looked around the cockpit. Crux was still breathing. Bex was bleeding but smiling. Boone had already fallen asleep in his seat. "Coming home," Reaper said. Days passed. Velmora did not celebrate with cheers. It celebrated with rebuilding Kaitari. Hives worked beside human hands. Hive Zeta became more than a base. It became a city. A beacon. They buried the dead. They planted new growth. And for the first time, they looked at the stars, not in fear, but with hope. Crux sat under a tree grown from Hive Energy notebook. In hand, Ash floated beside him. "Still think Earth will come?" Crux nodded. "One day, maybe a month, maybe a year. And when they do," he smiled, "they'll find something they can't defeat." Ash tilted her head. "What?" He looked at her. "Us." Vex and Boone trained new Kaitari guards in the outer field. Reaper stood alone on the cliff again. Rifle across his back. He wasn't smiling, but he wasn't frowning either. Ember stepped beside him. "You're thinking too far ahead. I always do. You don't have to."
Oh.
Reaper looked down at the city growing from Hive Zeta's base. Children, human, and Kaitari ran through the dirt together. He nodded once. "Maybe I'll try not to." And somewhere, far beyond the stars, inside a forgotten lab, an Earth technician stared at a dark screen. No response from Relay Gate 7. Another technician leaned in. "Do we try to rebuild?" The third older one shook his head. "No," he said, "we don't wake what we can't control." And with a single press, he closed the file. Project. Cleansing. TERMEIAT, but the galaxy had already changed, and the defenders were watching, waiting together. Always.